Alrighty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. CaveTalkRadio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app. Great to have you aboard. Facebook Live, YouTube Live as well. And it's a beautiful, rainy, crummy Tuesday. But hey, you know what? We're still here. The Yankees aren't still here, but, we're still here. I had to throw that one out. I had to get it in.
I'm glad you did.
So before we get going today, I do want to make a quick statement. So obviously, it takes a significant amount of equipment and technological integration that's well beyond my pay grade and head to set up a radio station. So we have a lot of equipment just out in the hall behind me. But the most complicated piece of equipment, was a doorbell. No, the most complicated piece of equipment that we had to set up, I figured out the other day. I installed my own printer. And you know what? I'm not an engineer, but installing your own printer is kind of the same thing. Those things are so impossible, so confusing. And it's HP on top of all that, but it's actually working. And I did it all by my lonesome. That deserves a double shot.
I can set up a network.
Wow, that makes you like
8 to 10 computers, chain them together, and do everything. You throw one printer in the mix, I'm done.
Oh, cooked. Printers are the worst, man. They have minds of their own. I'm convinced that when the apocalypse comes, when the machine takeover comes, it's gonna be printers that are the ruling class, nothing else. You're gonna have all these complicated machines, but it's the printers that no one can figure out. So they're gonna be the ruling class of the machine takeover group. Anyway, so there's my little rant on printers. Now to the sports. So Monday Night Football was predictably not a great game, although it went the other way. The Bears busted out of Lions territory. So it's now just Lions now. We can't go Tigers and Bears anymore. The Bengals won bigly. The Bears won bigly. So sorry, Dorothy. It's just Lions now. We got to cut off your little saying a little bit by 2/3. Bears absolutely walloped the Patriots yesterday. One thing I have to take away from this game, Rich, and this is where I'm starting today, and I expect this to happen. I know that what they've invested draft pick wise and stuff in Jones, but Zappy or whatever his name is, how do you pronounce it? He's much better than Jones. He came in midway through this game or earlier, and he was a lot better. The team's offense looked and moved the ball better in the couple of games he played. They scored more. I mean, he's better. And if there's one thing I know about Belichick, he's not going to hesitate. He doesn't give a shit who was drafted where or what. If you're better, you're going to play. I think he was just waiting for confirmation. I think we got it last night. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last we've seen of Jones as the starter for the year and maybe ever for the Patriots. I mean, depending what Zappy does with this opportunity, but I would be very surprised if he's not named the starter for going forward for the time being.
Uh-oh. Hey, Bill, the door, it's for you. It's the Colts offering a draft pick for Jones.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they demoted Matt Ryan, too.
This is why, and it takes time, but this is why you don't just push quarterbacks out of the way right away, and you don't do annual fixes at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Indy has a decent roster.
They do.
He got a great running back.
They do.
Got some excellent players on defense. Man, you cannot play musical chairs at the quarterback position.
Nope.
And they've brought someone in every year. I heard someone say last night, well, yeah, the first one was Phillip Rivers, and that experiment failed. No, it didn't.
No.
Took them to a wild card game.
Right. I mean,
they lost to Buffalo, but he actually outplayed Josh Allen.
Yeah, what were you expecting? I mean, like, that was 40-year-old Phillip Rivers. I mean, you got,
Still looked
I
good.
think, exactly what you could have hoped for, and maybe more. Like, you got exactly what you signed for.
Who's next off the scrap heap? Well, Carson Wentz.
Oh, that's a
No,
scrap heap.
not Carson Wentz.
He is the
Who do
scrap
we
heap.
who do we bring in now? Oh, Matt Ryan.
Oh, boy.
We knew before going in he was done.
Oh, he was cooked. We said that. Yeah, he was cooked.
And injury or not, he shouldn't have been in the lineup.
No, he's
So
just
I'm drinking my Josh Allen blend this morning. I
beautiful.
don't drink coffee from losers.
That's right. That's right. I'm the coffee of the Yankees, baby. Chock full of nuts.
I think that might be your Lakers. I'm sorry to
Oh man, we are chock full of nuts. I'll tell you that.
say. And do you mind if I say so? Interject here with something?
Go for it.
I'm tired of the Westbrook blame. Is he playing well? No. Not anywhere close. But why does Westbrook, I mean, who deserves some of it, shoulder 100% of the blame when the guy I think more to blame is AD?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about this the other day. I think there's a lot of blame to go around. Westbrook and LeBron don't fit together. That's clear. We know that. AD is just not playing to the level that he needs to play. He's not playing like we talked about the other day. We don't have to rehash the whole thing, but yeah, he deserves a lot of blame. Rob Pelinka deserves a ton of blame. Look, he tore down a championship winning roster. See, here's the thing no one's talking about that people have to understand. Championship rosters, yeah, you need your star players, but they have strong, deep role player reserves. This team has no role players. The one you had last year that was more than the role player at times, you let go to Sacramento for like $10 at a Big Mac, and that was Malik Monk. Why?
Well,
$10 in a Big Mac, Rich, and they even held the cheese. It's not even a real Big Mac.
Oh, geez, no. LeBron has to be held accountable in that too. He pushed to get Westbrook at all costs.
After they weren't,
after they weren't able to get. It's a rare miss for him.
It is, and it should be noted that Westbrook was their second or third choice. They had pursued Beal. There was one other. There were three guys that year that they pursued, and they couldn't get the first two, so they went with Westbrook. So yeah,
but they came off a title winning with two guys and a good supporting cast.
Well, the problem is
you didn't need a third.
They didn't need what they didn't need Westbrook, but I think their thought process behind, I have no problem pursuing a third guy. The fit was wrong. But
if it's a guy like Klay Thompson, I have no problem. One who's not ball dominant.
But and the thing is, I think they deserve a little credit for going after a third guy for this reason. I think they knew that they caught gin and lightning in the bottle with AD in 2020. I think they knew they weren't going to be able to rely on him the way they need to now with this roster the way it is. I think had the Westbrook thing panned out, I think that would have been looked at as a really smart move to get ahead of the curve, because I think AD was going to go this way 100%, and I think they knew that, which is why they made that move, which would otherwise appear curious. I actually think that was smart, but it didn't work out because they got the wrong guy. Now, the other thing I was going to say is they don't have the thing where they really screwed this up, and this is where I think I put more blame on Rob Pelinka than I do on anyone else. My order of blame is Pelinka, AD, and Westbrook.
I think James gets some of it because he's the one they needed to make those moves to make the space for Westbrook. So he's got to be on that list too.
Ultimately, Rob Pelinka is in charge of the roster. And so that's why he's the top of my list.
Yeah, but when LeBron has the owner's ear, he's not.
Oh, Pelinka's in charge of the roster. There's no question about that. They just gave him an extension, and I mean they've outright said that in the past. I think that Rob Pelinka personally, I mean, if you have to make cap sacrifices, that's one thing. But there was no financial reason why they should say no to Malik Monk. given the contract he got from Sacramento. There was no financial reason why they didn't bring back Dwight Howard, who's still sitting in street clothes on his couch. There was no financial reason why they didn't re-sign Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Caruso, I understand. He was an up-and-coming young player. Other teams wanted him. He got a bigger contract. You couldn't afford him. Fine. But they lost all those guys, and 3 of the 4 I just mentioned, there was no reason to lose any of them. You could have signed every one of them to a smaller contract, birds' rights, veterans minimums. You could have signed every one of those guys.
If they take veterans minimums.
Well,
I didn't see Malik Monk taking a veterans minimum.
He barely got over that, but that's what I'm saying. Him, you would have had birds' rights for. He doesn't qualify for veterans minimum yet anyway. He's not in the league long enough. But he absolutely could have been re-signed with birds' rights. They didn't. The Kings didn't sign him to a big contract. They signed him to a 2-year, $19 million deal.
But then you got an owner saying, I don't want to go this far over the salary cap and pay luxury tax.
Well, then the owner gets put on this list for blowing that up, because
I think they're all put on the list.
The thing is, you can't win without good supporting players. And right now, the supporting players they have are terrible. I mean, there's not one guy on this roster that I would look at and say, you're a role player on a championship team. Austin Reeves might get there. He's not there yet. And he's the only one. I don't like this roster.
None could be there.
Yeah, Kendrick Nunn. Okay, that's another one. Yep. Okay, so there's 2. Yep.
But yeah, there's not enough.
I mean, Toscano Anderson, no thanks. Who's this Jones guy? This center forward? No, I'm good. Like, I mean, really, that's when you look at it, that's as big a problem as anything. And even if you traded Westbrook, because here's what you could do. If you moved Westbrook and got 2 rotation guys, let's just say that Indy deal eventually happened. Now, at least you have more shooting, which LeBron and others have been, saying we don't have shooting, which everyone knows. It's not, no one's breaking news there. If you get some shooting, you get a functional big. It all comes back to the first guy you mentioned, which is Davis. If Davis is not going to play somewhere around how he played in 2020, you have no chance to salvage this. If he does that and you move Westbrook for pieces that fit, you have a chance to compete. It comes down to those 2 things. If Davis plays the way he needs to, and you can trade Westbrook for pieces, not stars, but pieces that will fit, you have a chance to salvage the season. But both of those things have to happen. Otherwise, you're in for another dumpster fire.
And that's the thing. Even if they do make a favorable Westbrook trade,
if Davis doesn't play his part,
it's not enough.
No, Davis has to be an MVP type player. Because when you don't have 3 guys, you need 2 guys who are MVP types. And miraculously, through, I have no idea why or how, LeBron at year 20 is still MVP caliber player somehow. I have no idea why or how, but he is. But Davis at age 30 looks like he's LeBron's age, and LeBron looks like he's Davis's age.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Boston has those 2 players.
Oh, yes, they do, with Brown and Tatum, of course.
And a great support.
Well, that's the other thing. They have a great roster. Yeah. They have a great roster.
So a third player wasn't necessary.
It's not necessary.
There.
That's right.
I think LeBron's got to be at the point where he's just hoping for a second guy to step up.
Well, that's what I mean. Davis needs. They don't have a roster with a third guy right now. Westbrook is a third guy, but he's not a third guy on this roster because of the fit. If you had 2 off-ball guys and Westbrook, that would work wonderfully. Like if you had R.J. Barrett and Klay Thompson and Russell Westbrook as the head of the snake, that would work awfully well.
Worked very well.
But
LeBron's never going to be an off-ball guy, nor do you want him.
Well, I don't want him to be an off-ball guy. He's too good. That
takes away from one of his strengths.
Yeah, it's his greatest asset, which is controlling the game and getting the best shot every possession. I don't want to take that ball out of his hands. No way. So Now LeBron has the shooting now. LeBron's an excellent shooter, particularly from the wings, to play more off the ball. And yeah, you can do that in spurts, but as a base offense, because you have to understand, it's not like Westbrook is better on the ball. No, he is totally incapable of playing off the ball. So even if you try to massage it, all you're doing is throwing up a couple of like smoke screens on a few possessions where you put Westbrook on the ball. Because ultimately, if you're going to play these two together, Westbrook has to be on the ball all the time. Like, because every possession he's off the ball, you're going to be playing, 3-on-5 or 4-on-5. And that's the problem.
And teams are defending that.
Of course. Like you said yesterday, you have centers guarding Westbrook 30 feet from the basket, standing 10 feet back, like daring him.
And not only is that effective, the centers don't get hurt because Davis isn't exploiting that. He's not close enough in to do it.
Right. Yeah, Davis, meanwhile, is taking pop shots from the elbows. And, while they have the center guarding Westbrook 30 feet from the basket, maybe there's a 6'5" guy on Davis, but Davis isn't even attempting to put him in the post. And it's like, oh, man, if I was Darvin Ham, I would be mad as a hornet over that. Oh, man.
Yeah, but you don't win arguments with players in that league.
No, that's fine. But, like, I certainly would be you're not going to have a public argument, but you're certainly going to talk to the guy and be like, look, we need you to do this. Like, you have to do this. We can't win. We are
not function as a champion like this.
Right. We're not, forget championships. We're not going to be in the playoffs if you don't play a certain way. And, maybe Davis doesn't give a shit. Maybe he got his ring. He has his money.
Ring, he's happy.
And maybe he just doesn't care. And, the thing is, it was a joke that he was in the top 75. Because like I always say, if I'm not a top 70, if I'm not a guy who is going to be talked about as potentially the greatest ever, championships are always awesome. They always are exhilarating. But in the grand scheme of things, for guys who aren't in that GOAT conversation, they don't really matter that much because it's not like it's going to be something you're going to have to talk about the rest of your life in public. Like if you're Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, it's cool that you won a championship, but it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? And
it doesn't hurt you when you get called to make speeches and stuff.
Right, exactly. And nor does it help you really. It's just
it doesn't change your life.
It's a bullet point on your resume. And Davis is in that weird group. Obviously, he's a lot better than Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but he's not a top 75 player of all time. I don't care what the NBA says. And he is, I don't think, at the stage of legacy where championships really matter. And I think he probably understands that, which is why he seems indifferent.
I agree.
Because
I just wish I could figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, because like you would just think instinctually, if you're a big guy and they put a 6'4" guy on you, you would just think instinctually, reflexively, you'd be like, "Oh, what the hell is this? Give me the damn ball." like that's right. Just a basic basketball instinct that you would just assume would be there. But it's not. And, he's probably
agreed.
He's probably nursing an injury. What else is new?
When doesn't he nurse an injury?
That's right. Oh, what a mess. What else we got today?
Baseball. Matt Snyder from CBS Sports made an interesting point. Someone told him that the extended playoffs make the regular season meaningless.
Yep.
And he said, that's the complaint he hears the most. He said, what's the alternative? Said the wild card game, one game, was fun theater, but only one game determining who moves on after 162 isn't how baseball operates. The entire season is a set of series. He said that's what makes the sport unique, and the playoffs reflect that again. And my issue is moving that to the end of August. what happens in September? You're in the World Series in week 3 of the NFL season. You think you're going to get eyeballs then? No, you're not.
It's a lot less than right now. We haven't even started the World Series and we're in week 9. So it's 5, 6, 7 less weeks of competing with
I
the
don't
NFL.
care if it's week 1. That's not going to change. The NFL has the audience.
No,
period.
of course
no matter what happens.
Of course they do. But my point is, right now they have that audience for 8, 9 weeks that coincide with the MLB playoffs. If you could cut that down to 2 weeks, that's 7 weeks where you have it all to yourself.
And it still doesn't solve MLB's problem.
Oh, it solves a huge problem. It absolutely
no, it doesn't.
Sure
it doesn't
does.
Solve scheduling. It doesn't.
Of course
it doesn't.
does.
It doesn't change the money loss.
Oh, no, it's going to make them more money, because what's going to happen is during those
I don't think networks are going to do what you think they're going to do.
During those 7 weeks, they're absolutely going to drive much greater numbers than they will right now by a lot. And at a point when they can negotiate new broadcast rights, those numbers will be reflective. And in fact, you'll have networks bidding for those playoff games, those earlier playoff games, specifically for that reason. Absolutely. Now, that's not going to be double. I was using that as an example yesterday. I didn't really mean I think they're going to do that, but I do believe that it will be appreciably higher, and it will more than make up for whatever gate losses you have by playing some doubleheaders, without a doubt.
And then I have an issue with people saying, well, MLB has too many playoff teams. They do?
They're the best sport in all 4 in terms of the least number. But
they are.
But
NFL has more. NHL and NBA have much more.
Right. No. Baseball is the best of the 4, but they've gotten worse. It doesn't mean that they've improved. Now, these additional playoff, this new format, I like a lot of it, but I do think there's too many teams now for baseball. Now, it's still better than the other sports, but it got worse from the previous format, in my opinion. I loved the 1-game wild card. I was all about that. That was great. I think that should have been left alone.
I never did, because I always said 1 game shouldn't determine that.
Well, it's determining basically if you're getting in based off of being the bottom of the good teams. Now the problem is they extended the bottom another row by adding these extra teams. So now,
well, you could say that in any sport.
No, I'm not saying you can't, but it wasn't that way in baseball until this year. That's what I'm saying. They went in the wrong direction this year. Yes, they're still more selective in their playoffs right now than the other sports, but not by the margin it used to be. Right now, baseball puts in roughly, about 40% of their teams, just under, maybe 39%.
40%.
Yeah. The other sports put in between like 52 and about 58%.
NFL's 44, NHL's 50, the NBA's 54.
Okay. But baseball prior to this year, there were it was 4 less teams, 2 less teams. 2 less teams, right?
Mm-hmm. So
now instead of what do we have, 8 teams in each league this year, right? That made the playoffs. So was it 6? 6. So instead of 12, we had 10. So now that's 30% instead of 40%. That's a 10% jump in 1 year.
Well, it's not really 30%. It's about
well, if it was 10 out of 30, that is 30%. Last year, if it was 10 teams.
But there's more than 30. It's about 34%.
There's 30 baseball teams.
30? Yeah.
Yeah. There's 30
No,
teams.
32.
In baseball? I know there's 32 in the NFL.
I don't know now. This is far too early to do math.
I'm
sorry.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 100% sure there's 30 major league teams. I think the NFL is the only league with 32. I'm like almost 100% positive of that.
Well, the NHL's 32.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't counting.
I have a feeling the NBA will be soon.
Well, yeah, I mean there will be expansion, but as of this moment, it's 30 major league teams. So 10 out of 30 is 30%.
33%.
33, right? 33, right? So 33%. So 33%.
which wasn't far off from what I said.
And now it's 40. That's a big jump in 1 year. That's a big jump, and in the wrong direction. And yeah, baseball is the best with this compared to these other sports, but that doesn't make what they did good. And I'm 100% like, if they want to keep this extra stuff,
I would.
Absolutely. Well, they're going to, but like, it does take away from some of the value of the regular season, like in a significant way. And I think you're going to see that reflected over the next coming years in how teams choose to operate. I think you're going to see NBA style load management. I think you're going to see a lot of teams that are indifferent to winning, games that they otherwise might have cared about winning a little bit more. I think that's absolutely going to be a byproduct fallout of this, without a doubt. And that's bad. But, other sports have done it, so I guess they calculate.
And baseball teams routinely load manage anyway.
Well, with pitchers, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people get 1 day off a week, and
yeah. Well, I think you're going to see that increase, is what I'm saying. I think
it'll be more.
Oh, okay. A lot more. Yeah, it's going to be more because now it's going to be easy to make the argument. Well, what does it matter if we with these games, as long as we get hot at the right time, who cares? Like that's because like all I have to do is win 2 games in a series. Like, it's a short series. Anything can happen. We just watched the lowest seeds make the World Series, maybe win it in the NL. The 2 lowest seeds in the conference were in the NLCS. So like,
and I like that. It's one of the best things about sports to me is that anyone has a chance to win. I love 1-8 matchups early in NBA and NHL. And I haven't seen load management come to the NHL where they play the same number of games as NBA teams do.
Well, it's baked into it. You play 30-second shifts. That's load management in and of itself. Like that's the way the sport plays.
Yeah, you play 20 minutes a night in that sport, and defensemen play more. I think it takes every bit as much out of you as.
Yeah, but I mean, they rotate so frequently that in and of itself is a form of load management. Just. But that's always how it's been. It's obviously that's not new. That's how the sport is played. But
right.
But I think that is why they're able to not do that, perhaps because they're constantly refreshing. Whereas, like, you play your whole roster basically in an NHL game on a regular basis. No other sport does that.
True.
All right, let's take our first break, and we will come back. We have the question of the day. I want to get to some sports business stuff I was reading about, including a pretty radical idea by the NBA in terms of combating tanking. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen, but it's
not, but it's very interesting.
But it was mentioned by the commissioner. So it's not just a hypothetical. This has been really discussed. So we'll get to that as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right, it's time for the radio question of the day. If I can get it to play, because, it's early for Rich to do math. It's early for me to manage computer files.
See, it's just plain early.
Here we go.
Gen Z fans view football differently than their boomer counterparts. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer. And again, airfare.
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-648-9175. That's 800-648-9175.
A Morning Consults poll found 7 out of 10 NFL fans say players' sustained head injuries have no impact on their interest in football, leaving only 3 out of 10 to admit head injuries make them less interested in the sport. Gen Zers were described as being most negatively impacted, with 38% reporting head injuries made them less interested. 78% of boomers said head injuries had no influence on their interest in the game. A majority of fans, regardless of age, reported believing football is the most dangerous sport. Question: do you think Gen Zers are genuinely concerned about TBIs, or do you think they're virtue signaling?
Well, assuming Gen Z refers to people right now who are somewhere between their mid-20s and early teens, which I believe is what it is.
They're younger than, they're not in the situation you are.
Right.
They're not in that bracket.
No, they're the generation behind mine. I'm what they would call a Zennial, which is an older millennial. We're like a subsection of the millennial and Gen Z generation. And then people who are 5 to 8 years younger than me or so are just regular millennials. This is the group that's now 25 and younger, 25 to like the early teens. So yeah, they don't know what they're talking about yet, is what it boils down to. When you're that age, you say whatever you think is morally proper, not what you actually believe or even truly understand. And then you find out later when you turn 35, like, oh wow, I was a moron. So like that happens a lot. And if it
Started growing up.
And if it doesn't happen, you're even a bigger moron. As the saying goes, if you get to be 35 and you don't realize that you were an idiot when you were 20, then you're still an idiot. And so all the jokes aside, I do think these people are, and Rocco chiming in, social media regurgitation. I think that's a good way to summarize it, Rocco. It is a very
good way.
I think that's very well put. And I think that ultimately that's what you're looking at with something like that is it probably going to be a higher percentage of people going forward that are concerned about head injuries? Well, yeah, because the media has made such a big deal of it for so many years. So that will have some effect. Do I think it's going to have this corrosive, destructive effect of preventing the NFL from having elite talent? Not at all. No chance.
No, absolutely.
No way.
Recency bias has something to do with it, too.
Yes, of course. But that's where these younger generations, there will be a higher percentage of them, even after they get a little older and wiser, that still believe that, because for them, what we call recency bias, for them is all they know. They don't have a previous point of reference.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's gonna have an effect, but I don't think it's gonna be a massive effect, because you might look at it and say, oh, head injuries. I think where you're gonna see the effect, and you're already seeing it in the NFL, I think people are still willing to play in the NFL because of
Oh, yeah.
how much it pays. But I think you're seeing more people say, I'm gonna get my money and get out. So you're seeing a lot more 7-year careers, 6-year
Right.
careers among guys that have options that could play 15 years if they wanted to, but they're not. Like look at Joe Thomas of Cleveland. He played 10 years and got out.
Yeah. Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck's another one. So I think you're going to see that.
I want to be able to play with my kids.
Right. Right. So you're going to see a lot more of that. But with maybe the exception of quarterbacks, and Luck, I think, will be an extreme example. I think mostly quarterbacks will still play a long time just because there's so much money to be had. And
they're extremely more protected.
Right. That exactly. Yep. That was the next thing I was going to say. Absolutely. So, but it's a good question. But I do think that it's more virtue signaling than not. I think there's a sliver of reality in it, but I would put that sliver at somewhere between 10 and 20%. I think it's more, maybe less. I think it's more virtue signaling. And I don't even think it's when like a 40-year-old virtue signals, they know they're full of shit and they know they're lying. When you're 20, your virtue signaling in your 20-year-old mind is the truth. And then if you're a real person, when you hit 35, you realize
you don't have the experience at 20 to know yet.
Right, exactly. And then if you're a real person, when you hit 30, 35 or so, you realize, oh, wait, that wasn't really true. But when you're 40 and you virtual signal, now you're just manipulating. Now you're just lying. You're playing for the camera.
And I'm one of those that is concerned about them. Does it change why I would view? No.
Right. Well, I think
Does it change whether I have an interest in the game? No.
Right. But I think the question is more pertaining to playing the sport or allowing those around you to play the sport. And I know we've had that conversation in the past. And for me anyway, I think I would I know I would allow myself or a child or whatever to play this sport, because the truth is there's not been a lot of data to suggest that those severe head injuries that everyone's worried about are a significant threat prior to the elite levels of competition, meaning high college and the NFL. That's where most of the studies are done. And
that's where the CTE comes from.
Right. So if you're like 99.8% of the people that play this sport at a much lower level, you're probably safe from this stuff. And the benefits of playing it, both in terms of lifelong friendships, stories, camaraderie, and life lessons, I believe outweigh any risk you're taking by a lot. Now, because if you know anything about the human body, and I'm no biologist, but I do know some stuff, things like soft tissues and your skull and those type of elements are, no matter how big you are, this is what they always say in the NBA too, no matter how big you are, your cartilage is about the same. So my cartilage at 5'10" is the same as Chet Holmgren's at 7'4". So it stands to reason that the point of damage to those otherwise static body components is the same for everybody, meaning that the velocity, the impact level, the intensity of the physicality at the higher levels is what puts those body parts at danger, not the sport itself played at the lower levels with 150-pound, 200-pound guys hitting you who bench press 170 or 200 versus guys who are 270 who bench press 450.
Right.
Because
and it's a big distinction.
Right. Your muscles, if you're playing at that level with the big guys, your muscles are going to equal theirs or be in their same vicinity. But the body parts that are getting damaged, the skull, the tendons, the ligaments, those are the same for all of us. You can't make those stronger. And I think that's why you see more injuries of all kinds at higher levels, because it's mostly those soft tissues that are getting torn apart because they can't withstand that level of impact. Whereas at a lower level, how often do you really see a high school player, for example, tear an ACL? It doesn't happen nearly as often as it does at higher levels. I mean, it happens, but it's
When
a
I
lot
went to
less
high
frequent.
school, I saw a kid end up in a wheelchair.
Yeah,
But it was a freak accident. He threw a block incorrectly.
right. It happens, but it happens a lot less frequently.
But it was it doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't happen often.
And it still made me happier. I played basketball and baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I was never going to play football. I was a late bloomer physically. I mean, I didn't reach my adult height until I was in my mid-20s, but like 23, 24. But the point is, I think that you're not taking a huge risk, in my opinion, playing football at a level below college.
Yeah.
I think once you get to college level football, I think then you start having to ask questions. And at that point, it becomes a money discussion. Like, if I'm really good enough that I might get paid for this, it's worth taking the risk at that point. But if I'm like a guy, maybe that's where you'll see some of this participation erosion. If I'm just a guy who might be good enough to play Division I, but I'm not going to be an NFL prospect, like if I'm a backup tackle, or a third string linebacker playing at UCF, I might consider just walking away, because I think the risks are there at that level, but I'm not going to benefit from the rewards,
Absolutely. I agree with that.
That,
and of course, if you're a third stringer there, you're playing special teams, and that's the worst place to be.
Right. That's the most dangerous part of the game. Right. So I think maybe that's where you'll see some erosion, but I think at the lower levels, you're safe for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think at the higher levels, if you're good enough where you might get money, it's probably going to be worth the risk for most people.
Agreed.
That was a good topic.
Now, she asked the second part of that, is the NFL the toughest sport? Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. The most dangerous sport, most physical. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, it's the only sport where half the people on the field at any given time, their only job is to hurt the guy in front of them.
Right. Now,
Like,
I will say, freak accidents are scary as well.
Yes.
And I
see those
saw the freakest of accident years ago at a hockey game I was at, when a goalie went down and a skate blade slit his throat.
Seen that.
And it's a miracle, but they got him to the hospital and he survived and still played. Which,
yeah, I've seen that. I know what you're talking about. I've seen that on video.
That was in Buffalo. I was at that game.
Yeah, that's a bad one. One of the other freaky ones, nothing like that, but.
And I think anything involving skates is dangerous.
Yeah, that's not good. One of the other ones I've seen was in college basketball, that Andre Ware injury, where he just came down from a seemingly innocuous jump and his knee was facing the wrong way.
Yes.
Oh, I remember Patino crying on the sidelines. That was awful.
That was.
Paul George did something similar.
His injury was in an Olympics tryout.
Yep.
And that was one of the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's amazing he's come back from that.
And that took him years to get back to that form.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, he's a great player, man. I'm a big fan of Paul George. I always have.
I am too.
He's just a straight basketball player.
Everything he's been through.
Yeah, no, he's a good one. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour with a little NBA news. Interesting musings by the commissioner. Probably not going to happen. He said as much, but we'll discuss.
It really can't happen.
It can't, but
it's interesting.
It's interesting. It is. We'll talk about that next.
He said something else that bothered me too. Right below that piece that I want to, or that he didn't say, but was said that I want to discuss.
All right, we'll get to that as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on. You watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then, if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do, and you can trust them. In some cases, they save $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right, we're back. So Adam Silver, during a recent interview that was published, said that the league has considered relegation as a mechanism to combat tanking. And relegation is the mechanism used in European soccer and elsewhere, whereby a bottom percentage of teams, usually the bottom 5%, 3%, whatever, or in the case, sometimes is a flat number. The example he used was 1 or 2, would be relegated to the lower league, demoted to, ostensibly in this case, the G League, is what he said. And then the highest 2 teams in the G League would then be promoted to the NBA. Now, then in that same breath, he went on to say that it would disrupt our business model, and even the best teams in the G League, if they were promoted to the NBA, wouldn't be equipped to compete at the NBA level, and they'd basically be sent down the very next year, which is likely true. So he's right about it. I love that they're thinking about this and they're talking about it, but he came to the right conclusion. It's just not practical, but it shows you the depths to which they're willing to consider alternatives to solve this. It shows you he views it as a serious, huge problem, and I like to see that.
It's not really a secondary league to the NBA,
no,
which is the main problem. Now, what happens if, say, G League Ignite comes up? And they usually have enough guys where they could probably play a bit. But then how would you handle drafting?
Right.
Could you draft one of their guys? Well, no, you'd be stealing a player off another team's roster.
Right. There's a lot of nuance and that's what
there's so many things that have to be addressed on that.
It would make it very difficult. But it shows you the level of sincerity with which they're trying to solve this tanking issue. I mean, which is good.
If you want to solve it, just listen to us.
That's right.
We've had solutions for them for years.
That's right. Take the top couple of teams out and then throw the ball in the air and see who gets it. One chance for everybody.
Top 6 in each. I say take them out. They're true playoff teams.
Okay.
Rest of it, throw them in a hat. Yep. One each, just like you said.
So you could be the 7th seed in the playoffs one year and get the number 1 overall pick. Good for you. And
it gives you no incentive to tank.
That's right. Because if you're going to be in the top 6, you're really playing for something. So like you're not going to intentionally lose when you're capable of being at that level in your conference.
In fact, most 7s in that try to get up to 6.
Right.
Right after that article, there was something about where Silver was addressing the Suns staff and all that. And they talked about the sale, and Jeff Bezos is reportedly unlikely to make a bid. Oracle founder Larry Ellison could be interested, and he is. A huge sports guy. He's owned part of the San Jose Sharks in the NHL. His name's been on a short list in NFL teams, but he may face opposition from the league due to his politics.
Mm-hmm.
That is so wrong.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's so wrong. What does that have to do with whether he would be a capable NBA owner or not?
Well, no, I know you're right, and I think that ultimately, you could make an argument if you want to be just a tiny bit conspiratorial for a second, that Robert Sarver is getting the treatment he's getting in part because he's probably not of the group think that they want. I don't know if he's a Democrat or Republican, but
I don't either.
But I think more than that, I think they want people that are just going to fall in line and, be a company man, so to speak. I don't think they want individuals, which is tricky because most people that amass enough personal wealth sufficient to buy an NBA team got there by being individuals.
Right.
I mean, yeah, for every Rob Walton out there, who's not on any list, but he just recently bought the Broncos, of course. For every, person who just inherited massive wealth, there's about 20 that are first generation rich. They built it themselves. So,
right.
And to do that,
so his father Sam was that first generation.
Right. His father was, right.
Right.
But to do that, to get that kind of wealth by yourself requires a level of individualism and willingness to be a lone wolf that's exactly what I think the NBA is trying to avoid. So they're really searching for a needle in the haystack.
Well, and that makes it a lot tougher.
It does.
Because a lot of those people also do not lean progressive.
No. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know from that statement. It's not clear. I assume that means that they're looking for someone that leans progressive, but it's not clear that
it has to be, because if Ellison's political beliefs bother you, Larry Ellison makes no bones about much,
right.
Especially about where he lies politically.
No, that's true. And I
think that's a horrible way to make a decision.
Oh, it's awful
for an owner, unless there's skeletons in his closet that they haven't talked about, and there could be, but
everyone has skeletons in their closet. Like, that shouldn't really matter either, unless you friggin' killed someone or did like a real felony. But
well, they look at things that aren't felonious and make them.
No, I know. But what I was saying is, like, you mentioned him being outspoken about his politics, which, everyone knows. The question is it the political beliefs that bother them? Or is it the outspokenness that bothers them? Because I think it's the latter more than the former. I'm sure they don't like that he's a conservative, but I think more than him being a conservative is his outspokenness that bothers them. Remember all the years and decades of combativeness with a younger Mark Cuban and David Stern. I think Adam Silver wants to avoid that. He doesn't want outspoken owners. I think so. That's probably the bigger piece to this. And they're using the term politics as sort of a catch-all for being outspoken and maybe viewing things in the way that they don't necessarily agree with en masse. But I think his outspokenness is a big piece of this, and they're calling it politics.
And I don't think he's outspoken to the point, especially politically, where it would be something like that. Because you don't hear Larry Ellison a lot.
No, you don't. He keeps his head down for the most part.
He also has the financial means to do this.
Oh, well, yeah. We know that. I don't think that's a question. Yeah, he would be an interesting owner. I'm surprised to hear Bezos is unlikely to make a bid. He's been on the prowl for a pro sports team for a very long time.
He has. But remember, he just lost 50% of everything.
That's true.
In his divorce.
That's true. That's very
Which
true.
Also which also means a lot.
Yeah, maybe that's why he wants to make some more money. Buy an NBA team, recoup some of those losses. No, it's an interesting topic. It is. I do wonder what the NBA is going to ultimately land on. Getting back to the original discussion about this tanking thing, I do wonder. I do think they're going to do something. The fact they're having conversations like this publicly with such a radical solution tells me that there is going to be something coming down the pipe at some point, and I'm just curious what that's going to be. Because this draft thing is too easily manipulated, but it's also the fairest way to do it. But it has to be controlled in a way that prevents what's going on. So we'll see.
I say top 6, don't get them. Everyone else, the next.
So it's 18 teams. 18 of the 30 teams.
Yes.
Are put into a hat, and
one ball each.
Now, how do you do that beyond the first pick? Do you just keep drawing, like right down the line, 1 through 18, or do you at a certain point put it by record?
I draw 1 through 3. Then I do everything else by record. Because it could be 2 players that you're tanking for. I think 1 through 3 covers that.
Yeah. I would almost just do 1 through 18, because like why not? Like, what's the downside to just drawing it out?
Downside is if it works the opposite way, your bad teams are bad forever. Also not good for the league. Even though you have some that are bad.
Well, there'll be a draft the next year too.
All right, but let's say they have those same odds next year.
Well, I mean, if you're just unlucky, you're unlucky. You can't do anything about that. Those numbers will eventually even out over time. I mean, that's just,
a 1 in 16 shot.
Right. But that gives you even more incentive if you're one of these bad teams to try to get out of that. Because I believe if you were determined to be middle of the pack, even if you're the bottom team in the league right now, you can be middle of the pack and get out of that cycle in 2 years. Like, let's take like the worst, the Spurs. Okay, let's take the Spurs roster right now. If they were determined to be, middle of the pack in the Western Conference, they freed up their salary cap. Don't you think they could go out, overpay 1 or 2 like pretty good guys, win 41, 42 games, and be middle of the pack like pretty quickly?
I do.
Of course, anyone could do that.
Right.
This would give you motivation to do that potentially. Because it's better to be in that 6th seed than to be in this crapshoot. Unless, it's just better because there's no incentive to be there.
Right.
You're going to end up in those bottom 18 because you were just not good enough. And you're not going to want to stay there.
Maybe this will help curb the fire sale of players.
Yeah, it could help that too.
And the ridiculous buyout clause where you're going to pay someone
the
3/4 of their salary to not play.
The John Wall clause. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You have no reason not to play him.
Right.
Well, we're trading him. Well, obviously, no, you're probably not.
When? Yeah.
Because you would have. You're trading him next year, then you play him this year.
Right. Right. I mean, because it used to be when you were, if someone was sat out because they were being traded, it meant it was hours away, if that.
Right. A trade's imminent.
Right.
We're not going to risk injury.
Right.
Not a season.
Right. That made sense. 1 day, 2 days at the most. But now, like you said, not a season. So anyway, all right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do the top 5, and then we will continue on from there. We got news you can use to get to as well. We want to do our NFL power rankings. So we got a lot to get to.
An interesting thing in hockey last night, too. An interesting record tied.
It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Hour 2 of the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. CaveTalkRadio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app for Apple and Android. Plays beautifully in the car. Amazon Alexa, and of course Facebook Live and YouTube Live. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, top of the hour, of course, can only mean one thing. It is the top 5.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for Cave Talk Radio's Top 5.
Toby checks in for the top 5, too. It's his favorite segment as well.
Toby approved.
That's right. That's all we need. I don't think he likes it that much today, though. Maybe it's the music. What do we got today?
We're gonna do something a little different.
Okay.
I'll always ask you your best, your favorite. Okay. The topic today's NBA coaches.
Yeah.
I know your favorites.
Doc Rivers.
We've done this before. You've given me your top 5 legit favorites.
Yes.
Give me your top 5 coaches in the association that you find the most intriguing.
Intriguing.
Decisions they make, things they do.
You know, I think Eric Spoelstra is on that list. He plays a lot of funky lineups, and it's hard to be critical given the success he's had, but it's also hard to feel with confidence that some of the things he does are really the best choices. Like last year during the playoffs was a perfect example. 1 week they'd given Duncan Robinson his flowers, big extended contract. You know, he's the talk of the NBA, rags to riches type story. And then you can't even find them on the bench. You need the witness protection program to locate them. Like, why? Like for some guy Struce, like I thought that was something I bought at the grocery store, the frozen food aisle. Struce, like what? So that was just for that recency. That he's definitely on my list of.
And Struce is a regular part of the rotation now.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's weird.
It's very strange. Let's see who else. I think the Grizzlies coach, Taylor Jenkins, is fairly intriguing. He does a lot of interesting things too. He plays a lot of unconventional lineups. I think he's got a fetish at times for timeouts. He calls a lot of timeouts at weird times. He'll call a timeout. It'll be like 6-4 and be like, what's going on? It's like, listen, is it tea time? What's going on here? He's an interesting one. I like Taylor Jenkins. He's done a good job with that team too. So unconventional, but his methods seem to work. Nick Nurse is intriguing to me, more so his background than his decision making. His path to being a exalted NBA coach is a very unique one, very different one. I also think Ty Lue is interesting. And the reason I think he's interesting is similar to Nick Nurse, is his path to being a coach. Obviously, he's a former player. We know that. But in both of his head coaching jobs, you get the sense that he sort of went the, subtle espionage route. Like, he became like a confidant for a couple of players and gradually, if not intentionally, undermined the authority of his predecessor. The first time it was just as simple of David Blatt was not he wasn't identifying with the players, and Lue was basically doing part of his job, so they just gave it to him. The second time around with Doc Rivers, things kind of went south a little bit. I don't know. He has like he would be a guy I wouldn't hire on my staff if I was a head coach, because I wouldn't trust him to have my best interests in line. He feels like a classroom politician to me.
That is interesting, and I completely agree with that.
Like, I wouldn't want him as my assistant. I wouldn't trust him to not be out for my head.
Well, how good of an interviewer is he? Because the Clippers looked nowhere to fill the Doc Rivers spot.
No, that's true.
They talked to Ty Lue, and
that was it.
That's it. He's our coach.
he's about as good as an interviewer as Adam Gase. I mean, Adam Gase must be a great interviewer. There's no other explanation why he got not one but 2 jobs. Anyway,
Some people know the right things to say. Ty Lue could simply be one of those people.
it's possible, yes, but he's definitely a classroom politician. He makes me nervous. He's another one. Let's see some other coaches. I think Thibodeau is interesting because of the all-in nature. Like, this is his whole deal in life. He has no other interests. He doesn't have a family. He does nothing else in his life. He probably goes home and, like, watches film and eats Cheetos and probably, like, listens to, like, Billy Joel. Like, this guy's, like, straight up nothing else in his life. Like,
Billy Joel?
Billy Joel, Cheetos, and film. That's in a 1-bedroom apartment probably somewhere. Like,
What's the deal with where does Billy Joel fit
I
into
don't know.
this?
I don't know. I just picked a musician that seems like Thibodeau would like, because who doesn't like Billy Joel?
Okay.
He's a New
He
York
is.
guy.
I mean, this is a guy who told his fiance,
I can't get married.
I can't get married because I'm a basketball coach.
Yes.
And it takes up my life.
That's what I mean. That's a level of obsession that I would say is unhealthy, but it's certainly unique and definitely intriguing. So he fits this list for sure. He's also intriguing just because, like, he's one of those coaches. He will absolutely say what's on his mind. He doesn't have the same brightness of personality of someone like Charles Barkley, but he's definitely got some Barkley in him where he'll just say whatever the hell he's thinking.
Yes.
And I love that.
Always.
So I'm a big Thibodeau guy. He meets the criteria of interesting and intriguing. What about Popovich? Is just a grouch. I'm not going to put him on this list. He's just a grumpy old man at this point. He's the guy screaming at the clouds. Like,
yes,
go away.
He is. He fits the typical old man yelling at clouds. That's just him.
That's who he is.
That must have been made for him.
Absolutely. At one point he was interesting. Now he's just grouchy. I mean, I'd be grouchy too with a roster like that. I understand, but still.
Yeah, but he's been grouchy long.
Yeah, he's been grouchy a long time. Yeah. Let's see. Who else do we got? Go 1 or 2 more, then we'll put these in order. I'm intrigued by Monty Williams in some ways. I think he's gone through a lot of stuff. I think he's been paid his it's interesting because he's been equal part paid his dues and also handed things. Like, he definitely paid his dues and earned his stripes as an NBA coach. But the reason he got the job he has now, one of the reasons that was stated publicly in various circles, was because of his skin color too. Now, he earned the job at the same time. That's what makes him interesting, is he's like one of the rare people that earned his job, but also benefited from what I would call affirmative action. So it's like, but like, he didn't need that. That's what makes it interesting, is like, he didn't need that second piece because this guy earned his jobs. This guy's paid his dues, and he's a good coach.
True. He very well has paid his dues and has earned the job.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting that both things happened in his current situation. But then of course we know what happened with his wife. Such a tragic thing to go through. Just very, very sad.
Yes.
Very sad. And I guess that's
I know he's not coaching anymore, but is there a more intriguing individual in coaching life than Phil Jackson?
No. I don't know what to think of him. I do know this. If I sat in the room with him, that room would smell like weed. I know that. That's all I know. That room would smell like 1970s weed. We'd probably have like the Grateful Dead or the Who on in the background. There'd be a yoga mat somewhere. He'd probably be wearing like tie-dyed like shorts and like some sandals. Absolutely. Eric Bieniemy's a football coach, not a basketball coach. But yes. Yeah, no, so there's the list right there. Let's see.
Rank them up.
I mean, Phil Jackson's definitely the top of the list. But if we're going to keep this to active coaches, was that part of the criteria? Or not necessarily?
Not necessarily.
All right, because I wasn't thinking retired guys the whole time, but Phil Jackson is certainly interesting. So,
yeah, he's lived a completely different life than
Yes.
most coaches.
yes. Phil Jackson will be one then. I'm gonna put Tom Thibodeau at 2. Anyone that's like literally gonna like obsess about coaching to the point where they won't get married, that's really interesting to me in a kind of sick kind of way. It's almost like interesting, like a clinical psychologist would be interested in the sociopath. Like, is it
Yes, yes.
that type of interesting? So I'm gonna put him at number 2. Number 3, I'm gonna go with. This is tough. I think I'm gonna go with. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank on the Miami coach right now. Eric
Spoelstra.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Spoelstra at number 3 because of the decision with Duncan Robinson. That was the most weird, odd, crazy timed personnel decision I've ever seen in the NBA. Like, because like they literally just signed him to this big contract, then they put him on the bench and glued him there. Like, what? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So
He's gotten in a little bit this year.
a little
but
bit, yes.
Still not. And I think it hurt them not having that scorer out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So he's gonna be 3.
Spoelstra's 3rd. Okay.
Number 4 is gonna be Ty Lue. I have interest in him the way like a detective would have interest in a prime suspect for a mystery murder. Like, I just look at him kind of side eyes, like, can I trust you? I don't know. Not sure.
Oh, I think he'd make a great informant, though.
Yeah, deep throat of the NBA. That's right. Yes, I'm gonna put him at number 4. And number 5, I think I'm gonna go with the toss up between Taylor Jenkins and Nick Nurse. I think I'm gonna go with Nick Nurse because of his strange, not strange, but unusual path to the NBA front lines. So I'm gonna go with him mostly because I want to see if that becomes a more common path, or if he's just gonna remain sort of a an oddity. I mean, there's been other guys who have obviously coached overseas who've become NBA coaches, but like there's not that many who spent that many years and almost exclusively in those leagues who then became NBA head coaches without a long internship. He was under the care of Dwayne Casey for what, a couple of years, right? Like 2 or 3 years.
He actually coached in the G League though before.
Right, but
before that,
then he coached in Europe for a very long time.
Yes.
I mean, most NBA coaches are either longtime NBA assistants or, recently retired players are the 2 most common paths that I see.
Right. And
So-
he wasn't that. He was what, an assistant for a few years?
Couple of years, like 1 or
2
2
years.
years.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Very interesting path. So,
It is interesting. I like that.
so I'm going to put him at 5. Rich, you might know the answer to that. Where was he in Europe? I thought he was Israel, but I know that I might be confusing him with David Blatt. But
I think you're thinking David Blatt.
Because Nurse coached in Europe for a long time, didn't he?
I
thought he
don't
did.
think so.
Okay, maybe I'm confusing him with David Blatt, so I might have to take him off my list. Because I thought he was a European coach for a while. And I know he coached in the
No,
G League.
he actually, it was interesting because he played overseas.
Okay.
Then he went to the D League. Then he went back from the D League to Iowa State. Then he returned to the D League. He did spend 11 years mostly in Britain,
Okay.
in the British Basketball League. He never coached in the Euro at all. He did 11 years in Britain, D-League, college, D-League, NBA assistant, NBA coach. It was a pretty wild ride.
That's a wild path. And he's not a young guy. I mean, he's not old, but he's 55. I mean, usually guys are getting there. Was he been the coach there now about 5 years? He was probably about 50 when he took over.
Yeah, and in his late 40s when he took over. Yeah, so not far off of 50.
Yeah. So, I mean, usually guys are getting their first NBA coaching job, early 40s, maybe mid 40s. I mean, he definitely got a late start given his he took the scenic route.
Did. England's nice.
Yeah, when it's not raining, the 5 days a year it doesn't rain, it's beautiful.
Well, you say the same thing about
Seattle? Yes, I would.
Or Miami.
Yeah, that too. I would say that too.
Which rains more than Seattle, believe it or not.
Yeah, I do believe it. I lived in the South for exactly 11 months, and that was all I could take, mostly because of the constant thunderstorms and the humidity, especially the thunderstorms. It was just so disruptive every damn day.
The humidity was the hard part about living in Houston as well.
Yeah. I lived in Southern Virginia.
It was just hot and humid. It didn't rain a lot, but when it rained,
boom.
Oh, it rained.
It was the skies.
I mean, there'd be like a foot of water on the streets.
Right. Yeah.
Then it's hot and humid again. So
right. It doesn't even cool it off. It just gives you a steam bath, basically.
Yes.
It's like, oh, this is disgusting. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. At least in where I lived in Virginia, it had a tendency when it poured like that to cool it off for a while. But where my mom is now in Ocala, that's exactly what happens. It'll be like 98 degrees. A thunderstorm will come through, and now it'll be steamy in 98 degrees. It's like, oh God, it didn't cool it down.
The storm won't stay forever.
No, but
you'll get a lot of rain in that time.
In that 10 minutes or whatever, right?
It's strange.
I got really good at doing rain delays because when I was in Virginia, I was a baseball play-by-play man, and we used to get rain delays, I would say twice a week. It was just like, but they would be 10, 15 minutes most of the time. So you just got good at giving the rain delay reports.
And that's the best because you can get off on a couple of tangents.
Oh, yes.
Pick a ball player or two you want to go into more detail on, or
no question.
Even where you went for dinner. Those are fun.
Oh, that was easy back then. That was pretty much Chick-fil-A, whether it was lunch or dinner. That was my answer. Yeah, Chick-fil-A. It was right down the street. They were a station sponsor. It was the first time in my life I was aware of them. I basically had a hard and fast addiction. So yeah, the answer to that question was Chick-fil-A.
You've been a fan for years too.
Well, yeah, that was 2011. That's when I got introduced to them, and ever since, that's my go-to.
See, Erie, PA was my introduction.
Oh, there you go.
Not long after 11. So yeah,
that's good stuff.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do our NFL power rankings, and we'll close it out with some news you can use. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch. Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they
took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All righty, time to get some NFL power rankings. Week 8 already. Man, time flies.
It does. It does. It doesn't even feel like week 8.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. All right, so why don't you get us going? What do you got?
I got Buffalo number 1 still.
Yep. Can't lose the spot on your bye week, so yeah, I agree.
No. Kansas City number 2. I mean, against a good 49ers defense last week.
They killed them.
8 different receivers caught a pass. 3 had 98 yards or more receiving. That offense is lethal when they're rolling. And yeah, beating San Francisco like that is no easy task.
No.
I have the Eagles at number 3.
That's fair.
It's really wild that if the season ended today, the Eagles would have a top 5 pick. Thank you, Saints.
That really is sick.
That team set up pretty well. I had a hard time with between 4 and 5. 4, I have to go with the Vikings.
Interesting.
They have a 2.5 game lead in the NFC North, a win in hand over the Packers. Vikings should handle business at home against the Cardinals, and Green Bay has to go to Buffalo.
Ugh.
I think this is the week they can bust this wide open.
The Vikings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. They're up what now? 2 games? 2.5 games?
2.5.
Okay.
And yeah, they're winnable this week. And Green Bay's got a tough task. I've been going back and forth with 5 and 6. Is it the Giants at 5 and Dallas at 6? Is it Dallas at 5 and the Giants at 6?
That's a tough one because I think where you're coming from, correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, Dallas passes the eye test a little bit more. But
they do.
The Giants
and that defense is lights out.
If only the Giants could have had Micah Parsons. Oh, wait. Never mind. It's your subject.
They could have, yeah.
Exactly.
Some revisionist history here on the Gary Ayd Show this morning.
That didn't need revision, though. It was so clear he was the best player in that draft on the defensive side of the ball. And it was right there. They were like, no, we don't need him. And, Jerry Jones, even at 80, jumped to the sky at least 2 inches off the ground. I was like, yes, you idiots. Great. We'll take him. Thank you. Okay, continue.
I have to have the Cowboys at 5.
Yeah, I think so.
Giants at 6, even though I think the Giants are even a better coach team than Dallas.
Yes.
And I don't care what you say. Well, they did this or this was close. 6-1, 6-1.
That's right.
Football Outsiders playoff odds have them at 77.7%. And guess what? Outside of the East, the NFC is not that strong.
That's true. Who would have called a year ago the NFC East having 3 teams in the top 6?
Yes.
It's a good point. It's true. It's an absolutely true point.
Okay, so that's 6.
Yep.
I got to go with the Ravens at 7.
Yeah, the Ravens are always good.
Gus Edwards came back. They needed some punch in the running game, and he was there. And that helped them. I think they move way, way up. I'm going to go with the Bengals at 7.
Okay.
I think they needed a couple of weeks to sort some things out. They're right on target. And they look really, really good. I'm going to go with the Dolphins at 8.
Okay. Dolphins. Huh?
Tua wasn't great. I mean, but you could see a little defense in the offense with him in it, or a little difference, I mean, in the offense with him. Number 9. I feel like I'm missing somebody here.
Maybe I mean a couple teams, the Niners, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Chargers, the Titans are all teams that are probably in contention for these bottom couple of spots.
I had the Titans at 9.
Yep.
I think they win that division. The Colts aren't going to give them any.
The Colts are a weird team, man.
Yeah. And now who knows what they're doing with this quarterback. For 10, I considered San Francisco. I'm not sure what to make of them.
Yeah.
Are they good? Yeah. I think they're real good. But you're under 500. I am not going to put you ahead of the Jets.
You going the Jets at 10?
I have the Jets at 10.
Woo!
I don't care. They're 5-2.
They made it. There you go, Scott.
They're 5-2. I can't put the Niners in at 3-4
Jets.
because I still don't know what they are.
All right, so there you have it. All right.
They're loaded with talent, but I don't know what they are.
Okay. I'm going to take a crack at this now. My number 1 is the same as yours. Definitely Buffalo. Number 2 is Kansas City. Those are easy. Number 3 is going to be Philadelphia. Number 4 is where I start having a hard time. 4 on down. I'm going to go ahead and put the Dallas Cowboys at 4.
I put the Vikings there.
Yep, and I got the Vikings at 5. I'm going to go with the Giants at 6.
So we're still pretty close.
We are. Ravens, I'm going to put at 7. I'm going to put the Titans at 8. The Bengals, I'm going to put at 9. And 10 comes down to me for between the Niners, the Chargers, and the Rams. I'm going to go with the Rams at 10.
See, I couldn't stay away from 5-2.
Yeah, I don't believe really heavily in the Jets yet. And now with the Hall injury in particular,
they just added James Robinson.
I saw that. He's not
good move.
He's not Hall though.
Oh no, not a lot of guys are.
And they don't have enough offense on the rest of their roster to absorb that loss. I wouldn't be surprised if they lose 3 out of the next 4 games. So now is a bad time to debut for me anyway. I don't want to debut them in my top 10 right when I think they're about to lose 2 games in a short period of time.
But I also think in my top 10 this week, they're there.
Yeah, no, I understand that line of thinking. I just went the other way with it. But yeah, I'm going to keep them out. I put more emphasis on, at least in the bottom half of the list, who I think's going to shake things out when it's all said and done. The top half of my list is reserved for like the first 4 are easy. You know, the 4 best teams are pretty clear. Bills, Chiefs, Eagles. Those 3 at least are like very clear.
I still have the Vikings at 4.
Yeah, those are very clear.
I had Dallas at 5. So.
Yeah, I just flipped them.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Those are NFL
We're getting
parents.
closer as the year goes on. That's interesting.
It is interesting. Well, I think that the field is starting to narrow a little bit.
I mean, I thought this was going to be the toughest part of the Bills' schedule with the Packers, the Jets, and the Vikings.
Mm.
But the Packers don't look good. They're not a pushover,
No.
but they don't look good. I'm sorry, the Jets at home could give them a problem. I think they would have given them more of a problem with Breece Hall.
Yeah. Hall's that's a big loss.
And then they host the Vikings.
Yeah, I probably have the Jets somewhere around 13. The chat is asking me to have them at 14, 15. Well, let's play it out here a little bit. This will just take 2 minutes. So, rehashing it. 1 is the Chiefs. 2 is 1 is the Bills. 2 is the Chiefs. 3 is the Eagles. I have 4 Cowboys. 5 the Vikings. I have the Giants at 6. The Titans at 7. The Ravens at 7. Titans at 8. Number 9, I had where did I go with my number 9? Number 9, I had Cincinnati. There we are.
Yeah.
And number 10 is the Rams. So then beyond 10, I would probably go number 11. I would go the Niners. Number 12, I would go with the Chargers, who are 4-3. Number 13, I guess, would be the Seahawks, who are also 4-3. Number 14 would be the Dolphins, and yeah, I would have the Jets 15.
See, I had the Niners right outside of the top 10.
Yeah, me too. I had them in 11.
And I had the Chargers after that. You had the Rams higher than I did.
Yeah, I have them at 10. Put them in 10. So
I had them at like 13.
yeah, I got them at 10. So there we go. So there's our power rankings. The James Robinson trade, Rich mentioned it. That's kind of cool. Should help a little bit. He's a good player.
Doesn't replace the guy they lost.
No, not even close. But it does take away some of the sting. A little bit, anyway.
Yes.
What's interesting, talk about revisionist history. If this injury for Hall happens a week earlier, or happens in practice during the week, are the Jets the ones that make the move for Christian McCaffrey?
Interesting.
It certainly would have, I would think, opened conversations.
Interesting. I think they went for a speed guy, though, to replace a speed guy.
Well, they did because that's what was available. What I'm saying is if this injury happened before McCaffrey was moved, do they go a different direction? Because they need right now, because he's not only a speed guy, Hall, he's their go-to offensive weapon. James Robinson's a speed guy, but he's not a go-to offensive weapon. McCaffrey might not be a speed guy, but he's a go-to offensive weapon. I'd be curious. Of course, you can't ever know that, but just a thought that I had.
I also think they might not have wanted to give up the fire, considering
Yeah, but they didn't.
this team's in a different mode.
Yeah, I mean the Niners didn't.
The
give up
Niners are in
farm.
a win now mode.
Yeah, I guess it depends. It comes down to how you value.
I don't see the
Draft
Jets giving up 3 draft picks this year
Yeah.
when they're still a building team.
Yeah, it's probably true. Toby agrees.
Then it's settled.
Settled. That's it. The tie-breaking vote has been cast.
Toby agreed and said, "I'm going to go find some food. Leave me alone."
That's right. Where's the coffee? I drank it all already. Sorry. All right, let's take one last break. We'll come back. We'll close it out with news you can use. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
Before we get to news you can use, I sent you earlier in the week this Deadspin article, and I've been meaning to get to it. I keep forgetting, so I just want to touch on it real quick. The title is, "It's time for sports media personalities like Stephen A. Smith to jump off the Brooklyn Nets train." Well, I guess
Yes.
I never got on the train. See, I've been...
Why he was on? Yeah, that was my question. Why is he on it?
I've been money on my prognostication with this team since the very beginning, since the debut of Kevin Durant. I've nailed this, which has been, I've said from the very beginning, this team will not even be in the conference finals, let alone the finals. And I was the only person, or this show anyway, was the only show saying that, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Like, it was like, what are you smoking, Gary? I was like, I'm telling you, they have a coach who can't coach, two guys who are temperamental. They added a third temperamental guy. That lasted for 5 minutes. And, oh, by the way, one of those temperamental guys is made out of plexiglass. Like, they're not going to win. They're mentally weak. Kevin Durant he has burner accounts for everybody on the internet. I think a guy like that's going to be mentally tough to lead a team? There's no way. Please. You're insane. Like, you're going to bet on him to beat Giannis? Not a chance. I know they'll say, well, it was so close. Well, you know what? It wasn't. They almost won that one series. They didn't, and they haven't been close since.
The year they did win one series, weren't they swept?
Oh, they were swept. I think they won one game in the second round, maybe. And they might have been swept. It was either a 4-game.
I thought they were swept by the Celtics.
Oh, this year they were swept. The year they won one, I guess they've won 2 playoff series because they were 2 or 3 because they were a game away from the conference finals the year the Bucks won the championship 2 years ago.
Yes.
Then they were a sweep this past year. Now, I don't remember, that Bucks series was the second round. So, yeah, they won 2 playoff series. Money doesn't buy you what it used to. That's inflation right there. Everyone talks about inflation in the country. Talk about inflation of talent. You bought all this talent for freaking 2 playoff wins in 5 years. That's all you got.
Well, and then the third guy that they had, did they sign off someplace else? Who was there for 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Is in another place with a guy who can't coach.
That's true. It's very true.
This is his curse. He's always been with guys who can't coach.
That's right. Maybe that's because he's uncoachable. Who knows? I don't know. But all I know is this. The Brooklyn Nets are never winning anything as presently constructed. And I believed that from the very beginning. And, I should have. You know what I did that first year? I'll tell you something I did. I felt so strongly about that. And that first year when they were both healthy, Durant and Irving, that was the year everyone was like, they're winning it, blah, blah, blah. Like, you couldn't talk to anyone who didn't think they were the best team in the East, except for me. What I did that year is I bet 4 Eastern Conference teams, three. The other 3 top contenders, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Miami. I bet all 3 of them to win the NBA championship outright because I was essentially trying. What I wanted to do was bet against the Nets to win the NBA championship, but I couldn't do that in a profitable way. So I bet on their 3 most likely playoff rivals to win the championship as a way of backdooring betting against the Nets. And that's the year Milwaukee won. It was great.
Why is anyone still on the Nets? Do you like this roster the way it's constructed? I think Ben Simmons is a terrible fit.
Oh, he's an awful fit.
I think there's some places he could go and be productive.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would be great right now for San Antonio. I think he'd be great for Sacramento. I think he'd be great for a team like maybe the Knicks. I think he'd be very good on a number of teams that have off-ball players. See, the problem is talk about one area where I think the NBA has some room for adjustment, not really improvement, but adjustment. There's a lot of players in the NBA right now that need the ball in their hands and kind of take the air out of the ball when they have it, kind of sizing up the defense. I think the NBA would do very well for itself to find a handful of like Richard Hamilton types and guys like that, Klay Thompson types, who can be very effective voluminous scorers without having to have the ball in the hand to take a lot of dribbles, because there's so many elite guards right now that could create so many easy shots for guys like that. The problem is, because there's so many of those type of guards, they're pairing them with each other, and those are predictably bad fits. This is a logjam of that one style and a shortage of the other.
And I think a lot of that comes down to coaching well before the NBA.
Yeah, I agree. Well, because what gets you to the NBA is showing you can take over the game.
Right.
So that's what people practice and try to do. But,
then cohesiveness takes a hit.
Right. But these lower levels of basketball aren't really, they're essentially showcases in a collection of individuals. Nothing about the feeder programs are designed to be teams, which is, I'm not saying that's right, probably not right, but that's where it's coming from, to the point.
Well, you could say that's for like G League Ignite too.
Right. Oh yeah, their whole purpose in life, their explicit purpose, is to get people drafted into the NBA, individuals.
Right.
And I mean,
it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not. And minor league baseball is not very much different. But baseball as a sport lends itself to not suffering from that type of stylistic logjam, because baseball is essentially a series of one-on-one matchups anyway.
Right.
Or one-on-none. One-on-one, pitcher versus batter, and when balls hit, it's you versus the ball.
Right.
If you're the fielder that's coming to. So,
true.
So it's a little different. All right, what do we got for news you can use today?
Cool thing happened in an NHL game last night.
Yeah.
Phil Kessel played a game. Why is that cool? Well, since 2009, when he started this streak, he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He has played in 989 consecutive games. Who did he do it? He's with Las Vegas now, with the Golden Knights. Who did he play against last night? The Maple Leafs. The Knights play again tonight against the San Jose Sharks, and barring something really unforeseen, he'll play in 990. Good for him.
You know what I call that? For our Star Wars fans out there, I call that the Kessel Run.
That's right. That's right. And Kessel's been doing his running on skates for years.
Kessel Run at under 12 parsecs. Right. I don't know what a parsec
people
is.
asked me to compare it to other ones. There really is no comparison. Well, the record pales in comparison, I was told, to Ripken. Okay.
Still damn impressive. Let's not poo-poo something.
I mean,
it's almost 1,000 straight games. That's insane. I don't care what that is. I mean, think about just going to work for 1,000 straight days without taking a day off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
sorry.
That's impressive.
I get the accomplishment that you've done 2,900 games. You've never been checked into a piece of plywood either. The record it comes closest to, and I think the next record on that list is AC Green's.
What is he, like 1,200?
Kessel's been playing forever. I don't think he hits AC Green. It's somewhere around 1,200.
Yep.
He'd have to play 3 more years in a 38. I don't think that's going to happen. And with the way things are done now, I think a lot of these records stay for a long, long time. I mean, the current chaser now in the NHL has in the low 300s. I can't think of anyone in the NBA that's going to come close to that record of AC Green.
I think that the current record holder right now, I think in the NBA, the current active leader is Bridges, isn't it? For the Suns?
Yeah, it's not that high.
Oh, he's been in the league with like 5 years now? So it's probably like 400 and something games.
Yeah, he's 1/3 of the way there.
Right. He's the active
That's
leader.
a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's another like 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know how.
When you think about that, when you put it in that perspective, Green's record is essentially 15 consecutive years of playing every game.
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty about there. That's amazing.
Right, because playoff games don't count. These are regular season records.
Pretty amazing stuff.
Interesting.
All right, what else?
Let's see what else we have here. NFL investigating officials who appeared to ask Bucs receiver Mike Evans for his autograph.
Oh, I saw this. Dylan posted
That's
this
against
on
the
page.
rules.
Oh yeah, you can't do that. That's bad. It's a bad look. Even if it doesn't really mean anything, even if there's no impact on the type of calls, the implication there is stark, and I anticipate the results of this investigation will lead to a pretty severe penalty. We generally take this type of thing fairly seriously. I'd be surprised if it weren't a significant suspension.
Yeah, that's a terrible look. You can't do that.
No, you can't do that.
You just can't.
Nope, definitely not. 100%.
Pelicans Zion Williamson suffers a hip contusion injury, according to our colleagues at Bleacher Report. He left the game against the Jazz. I don't know.
What did she
I don't
say?
think it's serious.
Yeah, but it's just another thing with this guy. I mean, like, he hurt his ankle by his shoe blowing up in the middle of the game. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, no, that, like, what? No, I can't with this guy. I'm sorry. He's officially,
I don't understand that either.
It's craziness. And think about it. He's what, 22, 23 years old?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to get better as he gets older. Things hurt more when you get older, not less.
Right. Now, CBS Sports has a report that the Carolina Panthers rejected a massive offer of 2 first-round picks for one of their players, the player's defensive end, Brian Burns. That's a lot.
A lot.
And if you're rebuilding, why wouldn't you take that?
Well, you know what? How old is Burns? I don't know. Is he a younger player?
He is younger, yes.
So I'm going to defend the decision. I'm going to take.
He's just been in the league. What is this? His
second year or something?
Fourth year.
So he's probably like 25, 26 years old. So,
yeah, CBS Sports named him one of the 25 best players under 25.
Okay,
this offseason.
So this is why. When you're rebuilding a roster of 55, you really can't rebuild a whole roster of 55. There have to be some pieces there that are in place. And so there's no reason to trade a guy that good, that young. I understand the temptation with the 2 first-round picks, but you know what? I appreciate, if I'm in that organization, I appreciate that you will turn down a pot of gold for something you already have if it's good enough. And so I actually like that move. It shows that when they do rebuild, they have intentions of trying to contend and keep the pieces that work together versus doing what the Jets did for 100 years, which is draft terribly, every once in a while hit right, and then trade that guy, Jamal Adams, for draft picks. So, like, I'm happy to see that, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah. We got time for one more?
Let's do it. One more.
The Colts say that Sam Ellinger is their starting quarterback for, quote, the rest of the season. Is this a Frank Reich move? Because it sure doesn't sound like one to me. Reich seems more
I don't know who
calculated.
I don't know who Sam Ellinger is.
He's their third string quarterback.
So, yeah, that's bad. I mean, like, Matt Ryan stinks. But is he worse than Sam Ellinger? I agree.
I don't
with
know.
you.
Well, apparently, Foles is also worse.
Yeah, I agree with you. This doesn't feel like a move. Get Frank right. This doesn't feel like a move by any head coach would make. Because it does seem like you're putting in your third worst guy for the rest of the year. No coach is going to do that because coaches want to win games.
Right.
So I agree with you 100%.
And, hey, shout out to the Knicks for a nice win last night.
Yes. Maybe tomorrow we'll take a look at some NBA games for the rest of the week. Give you a couple of games to look forward to the rest of the week. I'll have some time to do that tomorrow.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, there you have it. That is the show for today. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll see you again tomorrow, 10 to noon. Until then, check us out, Cave Talk Radio, Cave Talk Radio app, cavetalkradio.com. Check us out. Rick Tittle, Titillating Sports. That's up next. See you tomorrow, 10 to noon here on The Cave.